All right, guys, here I am, here to make the Snickerdoodles. I've got my ingredients out. Turns out I need shortening, which, because of my grandma, I go to Crisco. I'm not sponsored, but Crisco is our game. So I'm going to mix these up. The first thing you do is you get a little dish and you mix a tablespoon of sugar and a tablespoon of cinnamon together. So I've got my big old jug of cinnamon here. And we'll put a tablespoon of cinnamon in there. Of course, the top doesn't want to screw back on because I'm trying to do it on camera. And a tablespoon of sugar. Get a paper towel and I'll just wipe my spoon out. I just don't want to get cinnamon. Hi, Janet Nash. Good evening. It's probably late for you. Yeah, it's 1:23. And then you get a tablespoon of sugar, which I've got my Del Monte canisters I got with labels. Remember back in the day you could send labels off and you could get free stuff? Well, of course it wasn't free because you had to buy the vegetables to get the labels. I'm going to get just a little table teaspoon, my eating utensils, not my measuring utensils. And you just stir it up. It's just a tablespoon of cinnamon and a tablespoon of sugar. And you just mix that up and you're going to set that aside. All right. Then we're going to measure out a cup of shortening. And hi, Linda. Do you remember back when I took home ec in high school, they'd have you fill a measuring cup up with whatever the amount was. Like I need 1 cup of shortening. So they'd have you get a 2-cup measure and they'd have you put a cup of water in it. And then you would just add shortening to it until the water level rose up to the 2-cup measurement. Do you remember doing that? Well, I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore because I have a Pampered Chef, not sponsored, but I love this thing. If you measure pouring in here, here's your liquid measurements. But if you turn it the other way, you can measure things like shortening and everything, and you just push down to where you want the amount. And you just fill it up, and then when you're ready, you just push the plunger and it comes out the top. Love this thing. Again, I'm not sponsored by Pampered Chef. Do you remember what a slimy mess that was? The trying to get the shortening away from the water after you mixed the two. Ugh. So I'm just going to scoop this up with a knife and fill this up, and I just keep pushing it down until I get this thing full. And I am going to need to lightly grease the pans. I live in the South, so to keep my shortening from going rancid, I store it in the refrigerator, which makes it pie crust ready because it's already chilled shortening. So this goes back in the refrigerator when I'm done. But I love this cup thing. You wouldn't think you'd need to grease the pans with a cup of shortening in the recipe, but you don't have to put a lot on your cookie sheets, just a little bit. But these are my brother-in-law David's favorite cookie. So I figured this would be a great sweet to take with me. And go from there. Right. All right. Then I'll use the side of the knife lay it down and just cut this away. Put this back in here. And then take it to your mixing bowl. I'm going to take this off real quick. Push the plunger. And then you just scrape that off. And then this goes in the sink. All right. The lid for this is here. And I'll just take a piece of wax paper and scoop some of that up, and I'll grease the cookie sheet here in a minute. All right. So now we need to put our beater back on here because you're going to cream your shortening and your sugar together. Here. And we need a cup and a half of sugar. So I still have the sugar open here. And I do this a half a cup at a time. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, lard is from animals, and then shortening is made from vegetable. I prefer shortening over lard, and there are a lot of people that say they prefer lard over shortening, but I don't. And I generally will beat this until the sugar is basically dissolved and everything's creamed together and fluffy. All right, so that's a cup and a half of sugar. So not diabetic friendly recipe at all. Not at all. Not in the least. Let's beat that up to 2. And you use butter. You could, I guess. The recipe calls for shortening. You could use butter if you wanted to. You would maybe need to watch it a little bit because butter sometimes will burn, but you could watch it. Hi, Angie. Oh, you're still not feeling good? I'm sorry. All right, so we're going to beat that. Beating well. We can bump it up some more. I've got my eggs out here. And I'm a firm believer in breaking your eggs one at a time, not into the batter. That way you don't get eggshells and you don't get a stinker of an egg in your mixture. I grew up on a farm, so you always had to watch, because especially if you had a small child helping you find eggs, they would find eggs in low places where chickens had hidden them and they'd been there a while, and oh, those are not pleasant. So there's one egg. Two eggs. I need to scrape the sides of my pan. So you get a real fluffy consistency. You can do this with a hand mixer. You don't have to have a fancy frou-frou mixer. And if you've got a good arm, you could like beat the daylights out of it by hand. I mean, our great grandmothers probably did. Don't let people sell you stuff you don't need just because it's cool. Although there are some things that I find are cool that I love to share. Like that Pampered Chef measuring cup, which I know there's some lookalikes out there now. All right, so we'll beat that a little bit more. I'm going to grab a plate to set my spatula on so that I'm not picking anything up off the counter. All right, now I'm going to sift together my dry ingredients. Let's get nice and creamy and the sugar's breaking down so you don't see the little crystals of sugar. That's how you get a really good texture on anything baked, is you do your beating until that sugar is kind of emulsified into everything else. It's just yummy. All right. And then we're going to turn this down to stir. There's a stir. It's the lowest setting. And we're going to put our vanilla in before the dry ingredients, which you need a teaspoon. And I like this pure vanilla. I don't know where I got it. You need a teaspoon of pure vanilla. 1 teaspoon. Whoops. It'll be all right. Put that away. What I'm going to just move this back and get flour out of here. I might need a bigger cup to catch this in. I'll just get this big one. Because I sift everything together, so the dry ingredients are all mixed with my old sifter here. 2 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. Not self-rising, all-purpose. And I scoop so it's tall, and then I just go boop, boop, boop with the back of a knife. There's 1. And I'm going to get 3/4 of a cup. I used to have a 3/4 cup measure, but I got rid of it, or it melted or something. So here's 1/4. 2/4. 3/4. Okay. And then in here you want a teaspoon of baking soda. I think you call it bicarbonate. A teaspoon of baking soda. 1. This is a 1/2 teaspoon measure. 2. I can't put that away right now because the camera's there. A 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to use some Morton iodized. And I said a teaspoon. No, 1/2 teaspoon. Don't want to get too much salt. That would mess everything up. What on earth? I forgot to start the oven. So I'll turn the oven on to 400 degrees. I knew I was forgetting something. Let's see, do I have it? There we go. It gets so humid here, things like salt, just different household things, they go solid. 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. That's this here. I don't know if there's another name of it. So I got a 1/2 teaspoon, so I'm going to put 4 of these to get the 2 teaspoons. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll just turn the handle on this and mix them together. This also breaks up those little balls of flour. So it's all fine and there's no big old blob of flour in it. All right. So that, pretty sure sure I'm done with these, except for the half cup measure. And we're just going to keep it on low and just start adding the flour, about a half a cup at a time, and let it mix. You just don't want to go too heavy with salt or it ruins it. Plus, salt is your leavening agent. It gets pretty firm. All right, there's not much left here, so I'm just going to pick it up, put it in there. I want to get all that floury goodness out of there. There we go. I've created another sink full of work for later. I'm just going to shove this off from here. I'll scrape the sides a little bit. All right. Let's see. There's some good bits of mixture up high here. All right, we're going to let this mix a little bit more. And while it's doing that, I'm just going to set this over here out of the way a little bit. I'll bring a cookie sheet over while that's mixing. And I'm just going to grease this a little bit. I just tore off a bit of wax paper. And you don't have to grease the whole thing. You just have to grease where the cookies are going to be. Okay. I've got 2 cookie sheets here. A little bit more. My grandmother would save the parquet margarine wrappers to do this. That's what she used for the, she never wasted good wax paper. She had butter wrappers that she would use. All right, so that's probably enough. And my shortening can go back in the refrigerator. And because I'm taking this somewhere instead of us eating it here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I still have my cookie baller thing instead of using the teaspoon. You can just use a regular teaspoon from your table service to form them. But I have a little thing that it's like an ice cream scoop for cookies. And when I want them to be uniform and everything, I use that. This beater I do not put in the dishwasher because it's aluminum. And aluminum in a dishwasher is not a good thing. The original beater that came with my mixer got wore out years ago. I've had this same mixer since the 80s. And I've made all kinds of stuff with it. Yeah, Scott's saying his mother totally wore out 3 KitchenAid mixers, but she was doing wedding cakes. So I'm going to set that over there. I got to get the mixer out of the way. The mixer's going to need a thorough wipe down. Because I got flour everywhere. All right, bring this back over here. I'm sorry if I'm not catching things. I'm trying. All right. So your batter is really pretty stiff. Do you remember the cinnamon and sugar we mixed up? You need that now. Let me see if I still have that cookie baller. I might have got rid of it because I wasn't using it. So I might just use the teaspoon. I think I did. I think I got rid of them. So I'm just going to use this teaspoon right here. And I'll just scoop some up, about that much. And then I'm going to roll this up into a ball. Then you just gently roll it around in the cinnamon and sugar and set it down on the cookie sheet. That's it. And then when it goes in the oven, the cookie will spread and it'll get cracks in it and it'll look cool. So I might bake a batch with you just so you can see how they look. If you run out of cinnamon and sugar, like I generally do, just mix another tablespoon of sugar and another tablespoon of cinnamon together. You can make as much of that as you want or, think you need. I like to have a good bit of cinnamon and sugar on the outside of the cookie myself. And I put them about 2 inches apart on my cookie sheet. Hi, Mrs. Gigi. How are you? When they're going outside, they make enough noise for an army. Well, my grandmother raised 9 children of her own. She took in foster children, and then she took me in when she was 52 years old and raised me. And she wanted to adopt me, but they told her she was too old to adopt. Well, she saw me through to high school, and we made it on our own from when I turned 10 to 18. It was just her and I for the most part. She didn't drive, so we relied on my aunts my Aunt Diane to take us anywhere we needed to go, which was the grocery store once a month. That's too big. And you can do like this, and it rolls around, or you can just use your fingers. And it wasn't till my senior year, and she developed Alzheimer's, and my mother came back to help me get through my senior year so I could graduate high school. And then I moved south to get to know her. And we did okay. Wasn't the greatest, but we did okay, I guess. It was like 2 strangers living together, but I got to know my siblings too, so that was a bonus. So I have 5 siblings younger than me that I didn't grow up with. All right, so you don't have to flatten these. You don't have to do anything. Just put them in the oven, 400 degrees, and I have my rack about midway in the oven. I know a lot of people say you should bake them higher or blah, blah, blah. I always have mine in the mid-range. And I just forgot I heated a pizza up, and the pizza stone is in the middle of the oven. So I've got to move it down to the bottom of the oven. I store my pizza stone in the oven. That's how it gets nicely aged. All right, 6 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the timer for 3 minutes. My oven isn't quite to temperature, but I'm going to cook it for 3 minutes, and then I'm going to rotate my cookie sheet around so everything bakes evenly. And we can, while we're waiting on it to do, we can make another sheet up. This is supposed to make 4 dozen cookies, so 4 cookie sheets worth of cookies. You still here watching? And I have a huge dry cooling rack on the other side of the kitchen that I'm going to put these on to cool. I'm debating whether to dig into my Christmas wrapping paper closet and see if I have some food bags in there. And then I can put like 2 or 3 cookies to a bag. That way, if we get too full of cheese ball and whatever the other sisters make, if we get too full of that, everybody can take a little sack of cookies home with them. And they'll be pre-wrapped for going home. Scott bought himself a new welder today at Harbor Freight because this weekend they were offering 10% off, I think it was, if you signed up. No, 10% off, and then if you signed up for you signed up for a credit card, you got 10% off. And then they're having if you sign up for the membership, that's like $35, they'd give you another 20% off. So he got $220 off the welder. So that's what him and Greg are going to put in the garage. I don't know where they're going to put it, but he figured if he's going to get it, he needs to do it now. Who knows what next year will do. All right. Yeah, see, I'm going to have to probably mix up some more cinnamon and sugar for the outside. Oh, that's my 3-minute bell. I'm going to just turn them. So I'll get 2. These are 2 different pot holders I've made at 2 different times. Turn these around. They might have to bake a little bit longer because the oven wasn't to temperature. I'm going to set this for 4 minutes instead of 3 because I think they're going to need it. The recipe for this is on my community tab, and I'm going to provide a link to that, or I'll just type the recipe in. It might take me a little bit because after standing here doing this, I'm probably going to want to take a break and just sit down for a bit. I might go ahead and mix up some more. I don't know about you, but when I'm making cookies, by the time I'm done making cookies, the ones that are at the end are much bigger than the ones at the beginning. So I don't know if it's because I'm just sick of doing it or what. Another cookie that's fun for Christmas time is chocolate crinkles. And that's a chocolate cookie that is got a dough kind of like an Oreo cookie. And then you roll it in powdered confections sugar. And then when it cooks, the balls all spread and go down, and then they crack. And it looks like cracks in a pavement. And they end up looking kind of like chocolate snowballs. Remove to wire racks to cool, which I'll do that. And I'm probably going to need to put one of these hand crocheted things here because the cookie sheet will be hot when I come over here again. Because I only have the 2 cookie sheets. Hello, Happy Maker. Yep, my brother-in-law loves them too. I'm going to mix up another tablespoon of cinnamon and sugar. Threw my spoon in there, but I have another one. That was just saying the oven just now reached temperature, so it's all good. If you want to have a little bit different flavor to them, you can put about a teaspoon of nutmeg in with your cinnamon and sugar, and that makes them even more tasty. Not everybody likes nutmeg. I personally love nutmeg. Oh, if you wanted to try it on the meat, it's in this front pot.
I just wanted to smell it.
Oh. Scott walked into the room.
Hey, everybody.
He's saying, hey, y'all. All right. Stir this up again. Yeah. This one was the sauce that was sitting here. I had them sitting in a specific order to remember. And then that one is the sugar-free. And the one at the back on the other side is that yellow, tangy, spicy sauce. What I was thinking is we could make sandwiches with one of them, and I would just freeze the other 2, and we'd have, because that roast, you guys, that I did yesterday was enough to feed like 25, 40 people. That's the sugar-free one that we've had before and really liked.
No,
Yeah. He's taste testing my barbecue.
I'd say the sugar-free is the best. Just number 2.
So you rate the yellow sauce the lowest.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's give a peek. I think they need a little bit more. You just want them to be slightly brown, which is kind of hard to see. You don't want to burn the bottom of the cookie, but you want it to be crisp. I don't need the cookbook anymore. We can set that over there out of the way. Does the cookie dough need testing? He's had these before. Janet was saying, doesn't the cookie dough need to be tasted too? It might. I've got enough left there for 2 more dozen. It's really not much like that until you put the cinnamon and sugar on the outside.
I approve.
Did I set the timer? I did. Okay. I think I finally figured out the lighting and setup that I need to do here in the kitchen. Angie says, hi, Scott.
Hey, y'all.
I'll show you what the cookie sheet looks like, but I don't think you guys want to hang with me while I cook 2 more full-on, or 3 more batches, really. Janet says she thinks she needs to taste them, too. Scott says he votes for the sugar-free barbecue sauce as his winner out of the 3. If you haven't seen that video, it's the one before this. Followed by the Rufus Teague made some sauce, whiskey maple barbecue sauce. So we're just waiting. Put the light on and see what they look like. They're almost gonna be. We'll pull it out and take a peek. Ha, ha, ha. Let me see. So when you touch them, see that's too doughy still. You can tell they'll be slightly firm. They won't push out like it's still raw dough. So I'm going to do 2 more minutes. The only reason I'm having to bake so much longer is that on that first batch is the oven wasn't to temperature. So make sure when you get started, before you even start pulling the ingredients out, start your oven so it's at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is Celsius. Somebody can look it up. Angie said Scott can have hers. Hi, Renee. And our local Christmas parade has started. They've closed the street where it happens down from, they said the street would be closed 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. So they have a bunch of things you can do while everybody's setting up. And then the actual parade happens later in the day because it's Christmas lights in a parade. So you kind of need to go when it starts getting dark, about 5 o'clock, they'll probably have the actual parade, but they have to get the street completely closed off much earlier. And generally they have like booths set up where you can get hot cider or hot chocolate. Sometimes there's cookies and the kids can visit with Santa and that kind of thing. So we don't really want to go be in the middle of all that. So I said, well, I'll go on and make my Snickerdoodles. Greg has gone off Christmas shopping, I think. I can't hold you right now, Tippy. I'm cooking. He's doing a walk-by rub on my legs. Oh, and did you see? I'm wearing my apron the other way around, so it's got the candy stripes down the front of it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Are you a baby?
Yeah, see, these don't mush as much. And now you can put them over on the cooling rack and let them set a minute on the hot sheet, and they'll finish baking. I'm going to start this one. I think I'm going to do 4 minutes and then turn it, and then 4 minutes. Instead of 6 minutes total, I'm going to do 8 minutes because of my oven. Timer. I'm going to let those sit over there on that cookie sheet hot for a minute, and then I'll take them off. Let's see. I need this. Wish I had a bigger one, but the other 2 are in the dishwasher. So I think I made these. I might have made this apron on here, but maybe not. I don't know. But they're really easy to make, especially if you do double-sided, because then you don't have to hem anything, and you don't have to put bias tape around the whole thing. You only have to put bias tape along the apron front right here, so you end up with ties. So when that goes off, I'll turn those cookies that are in the oven. I'll remove the cookies from the cookie sheet, and I'll bring a cookie over and break it so you guys can see what it's like. And then I'll sign off and finish these cookies up. I think I'll have plenty of cinnamon and sugar here for the last of it. And I also want the cookie sheet to cool off a little bit before I put the next batch on it. And I don't think you guys want to hang with me that long. Mary says, oh, looks yummy. She must have just watched the barbecue video. Pinterest is trying to lure me in. No, I'm not sending out. These are kind of, they wouldn't make it in the USPS mail system. I would have to wrap each one in tissue paper to even stand a chance of getting to anybody. They're a little bit fragile cookie. They're like a sugar cookie, but you, instead of flattening them with the bottom of a glass, which I think I've made sugar cookies with you guys, the drop sugar cookies where you flatten them with a glass. I love those. They're like one of my childhood favorites. Scott only likes them when they're fresh out of the oven. After that, he doesn't care for them. But I love them when they get firmed up after they've baked, because then you can have a nice hot cup of tea and you can bake, dip that sugar cookie in there. And Scott's going, ugh, sugar cookies. Shitty old sugar cookies. I'm going to go ahead and start taking the cookies off onto the cooling rack. And you can see, you leave them on the cookie sheet for a little bit. See how they flattened a little bit more? They're not as puffed up. They keep baking even after you pull them out of the oven. So see, they're firm. They're not mushy. You can tell if you haven't left them in long enough. You can definitely tell. I guess I'll have to go and pull out the Christmas wrapping box so that I can see if I've got some food grade bags in there that I can put some of these cookies aside for tomorrow. So there's that. Let me grab one. I'm a dunker. Yep. It's from growing up with my grandmother, whose father was from England. So that's why we're dunkers. But see, it's like, it bends. It's yummy. Oh, yum. Yummy, yummy. But if you want something a little bit different, pop that 1/4 to half a teaspoon of nutmeg in with the cinnamon and sugar. That's a special flavor. Oh, yum. Okay. I'll turn these and set the timer. I'm going to set it for 5. So I'm going to bake my cookies for 9 minutes instead of 6. It really depends on your oven, but start with the 6 and go from there. And I'm going to let you guys go. All right. Take care, everyone. Make some Snickerdoodles, and I'll put the recipe down below once I'm done baking. All right. Bye, guys.